Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have 6 stories for you from the Tales from Tech Support subreddit. The Karma Stories podcast is published to all major podcasting platforms, and you can also read along on YouTube under our @Karma Stories podcast handle. If you would like to submit your own stories to the podcast, you can email us at karmastoriespod@gmail.com. Alright, on to today's stories. Let's get our nerd on. This story comes to us from Northwest Radio, Printing into the Void. Many years ago, I worked as a tech and help desk and desktop tech for a defense contractor. We had this nice lady who was having trouble printing. She was putting in regular tickets, and no one could seem to figure out why every time she printed something, it didn't show up where we expected. She would send it to the printer wouldn't wake. My boss asked me to go check it out. Before I continue, you must know that this is a top secret project in military aviation. I am supporting the computers being used designing parts of an aircraft. This includes avionics and weapon systems. The company has several facilities spread across the globe. So I go to this lady and I tell her I'm there to check out her printer. I asked her to show me step by step how she was printing documents. I had her copy and paste a paragraph into a document, save it, and then print that document. I watched as she did this. She did everything right. She selected print, which opened the list of available printers. She went down the list, found the printer she wanted, and sent it. Poof, off into network land it goes. The void. Then I asked her to take me to the printer she expected it to show up on. And she led me over and I looked at it. It was nicely asleep, nothing in the queue. So I wrote down the ID of the printer and headed back to her desk. I then asked her to do this process again slowly until I asked her to stop. She went through the same process, went down the list of printers, she selected the printer, and I said stop. I saw it. She had been sending the document 2,000 miles away to an unknown printer in a different facility this whole time. And this was a top secret project. So I informed my boss what I discovered. I helped her understand what printer she needed to use, but I did give her credit because the way the printers were listed in the list would have been confusing to a lot of people. The 2 facilities had similar names, and the abbreviations used seemed to logically work either direction. So one could logically mistake either location. Not really her fault. And considering the sensitive program, outside printers shouldn't even have been seen. I won't bother to tell you about all the servers there were that could be seen. Once I got her corrected and she knew what printer to use, she had no trouble from then on out. There were over 2,000 printers on that list. I showed her how to use a filter for her own building on her own floor. I also set up an icon she could drag documents to for the one single printer she wanted. But to think of all those documents, she told me she had tried it probably 20 or 30 times that went outside of a classified program and printed in some office all the way across the country. Well, maybe they didn't, but it sure looked like they were. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Timiball. It says, "To be fair, whoever designed your MOE should have been fully aware that if you present a user with 2 options, one right and the other colossally dumb F wrong, they'll bash their face against the wrong one 9 out of 10 times, with the one time being because they missed. This is a fail on whatever team manages your group policy." Agreed on this one. There is no way there should have been a printer from 2,000 miles away in that list in the classified facility. Somebody in IT there really dropped the ball when setting this up. I'm actually really surprised that OP didn't write more about Fallout, because there had to be some if they were sending information out of a top secret facility to another printer and they didn't even know where it was. This story comes to us from the Barcode Lad. Not my product, not my user. Still somehow my problem. So, what? Right, I was on lunch break. 1 hour, 15 minutes. Not bad. I enjoyed it and I'm grateful. Beats the 20 to 30 minutes I'd get at the supermarket previously. Just outside, loitering in the public car park opposite the office, getting my nicotine in before I have to go back to work during a very quiet and empty part of the year. A nice couple stop and turn a few meters from me. They turn and ask, "Hi, we're just on our way into town for lunch. Where do we go to get to the high street?" "Oh, you just go through this door, down the stairs, take a right, then a left, follow the road up and around the curve. Then you can turn right for the old town and left for the new town." Then suddenly, I hear the voice of an agitated man through transparency mode on my AirPods. He sounded very annoyed, and apparently I look kind and approachable. I bid the couple adieu as they give me their thanks. I see a man approach me. My guess is Turkish, Greek, Mediterranean for sure. I struggle to make out his accent, so I remove my AirPods. "Sorry, could you repeat that?" "I need to pay for parking, but it isn't working and the app is crap and I've been trying to do this for 40 minutes. "Okay, sir, I'll see what I can do to help." We make our way to the closest pay machine. He starts fumbling with the touchscreen as though it's meant to interpret his thoughts. I take a breath and try to get him to follow instructions. Easy enough, right? Well, after today, I'm glad I work with lawyers. Even the worst of our firm aren't quite this difficult. I can barely make out his accent, so I try to speak to him slower and a little clearer. My posh, received pronunciation British accent helps a bit here. "Okay, sir, so first, what you need to do is enter your car's registration number." "Why? What does that do? It doesn't have cameras, so why does it need it? I hate this machine. It's so crap." A council worker comes around the car park every 3 hours or so, and they scan your registration. Without it being in the system, they'll fine you. If you enter your car's number plate in the machine, it'll put it in the system so you don't get fined. So why is he not here to help me now? Why is the app crap? See, I was trying to do this on the app. After a couple minutes, containing plenty of foreign swear words, futile attempts to shake the cement-bottom machine, and a few light and annoyed kicks at the inanimate object, I finally managed to get him to enter his number plate into the machine. He kept going on about the app, and I told him that he doesn't need to worry about the app since we're using the machine. Anyway, his registration is entered, he gets a receipt, and you know what he does? He says he wants to make sure it's definitely working. He flies through the process that I had just spent 6 or 7 minutes trying to teach him, seemingly in milliseconds. I didn't even have a chance to say, "No sir, don't do that, it'll deregister your car." So it shows the "Please register your car" screen again. He gets more annoyed. At this point, I'm done. I felt uncomfortable already, but I'm not spending any more time around him than I need to. I point at the receipt he has to show his car is registered, tell him his car is in the system, and he should be good to go. He doesn't need to worry anymore. I have to head back to work, blah blah. In a futile attempt to make me feel less anxious and uncomfortable, he apologizes for his behavior and talks about how he hates this technology and it's not directed at me. I thank him and say, "It's fine," and I walk away. I make other people's problems my own, and somehow, I'm great at attracting people with short fuses. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called the Bandroid. It says, "Good on you for helping. I know it can get you into the crap sometimes, but the world is currently the way it is because too many people have decided that if they aren't getting paid to do it, they don't want to hear about it." Another user called Snake commented below. It says, "You got a crusader. He was never confused about how to work the machine. He was on a crusade to convince someone else that the way the machine is set up isn't as clever as his own half-baked idea. The intention all along was to demo how easily it could go wrong if you just do what it tells you to do, to put someone else through how confusing the experience was the first time he originally used it, long before you got there. The whole thing was an ego trip." So many people in the comment section for this one are saying to never help anybody ever. Wow, when did we adopt that mentality? Heaven forbid these commenters would ever need help from somebody else themselves. I hope that in that case, that person looks at them and goes, no. This story comes to us from Ethan231. MFA is not that complicated. So for the past few weeks, the MSP I work for has been rolling out MFA to our clients. One of them is a small town water plant. This user calls me up and asks for help with setting up MFA. I connect to their machine and guide them to the spot where they need to scan the QR code on their app. User said they had MS Auth already installed. It says no link found. What did you scan it with? My camera app? You have to scan it with Microsoft Authenticator. What's that? The multi-factor app you said you already had? Oh, I don't know what that is. I send them the download link and wait 5 minutes for them to download it. We link it to their app. Okay, so now I just delete it, right? No, you need to keep it. User already deleted it before I answered. I screamed internally. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Felix1429. It says, MFA may not be complicated for you or I, OP, but if your MSP is just rolling MFA out, you're going to find out soon that many end users disagree. And walking people through setting up Authenticator can be fun. Wait until you start getting people complaining about having to use their personal devices for work just because they need to set up MFA. You'll be in for a treat. There is a way to simplify this process, and it's not by having people use their own smartphones or tablets or anything like that. It's by giving them all YubiKeys. This is literally a little device that plugs into USB and it authenticates for you. I think for a lot of situations like ISPs setting up MFA, this would be the easier way to do it, especially for some of their older clients. This story comes to us from High in the Mountains. Have cell phone, can do support. Back in 2017, I did a bike ride called Tour of the Moon. It was a 45-mile pleasure ride with 23 miles of it being uphill at the Colorado National Monument outside of Grand Junction, Colorado. I'm riding from east to west and the climb is not as bad as it is going the other way around. I'm pedaling up the hill about a mile from the first tunnel and the phone rings. It was a hospitality client who had a guest that was having issues connecting to the hotel's Wi-Fi. I explained to my client that I was on a bike ride, was currently pedaling up the CNM, and that if I could visualize what was happening on the guest's laptop, I could probably troubleshoot the issue. The front desk transferred me to the guest, where I explained my situation. They needed the internet connection, so let the fun and games begin. I'm head down and pedaling, talking to the guest when another rider decided to draft me and listen in on the conversation. After about 5 minutes of troubleshooting, I get the guest connected and they are happy and I hang up. The rider who was drafting me asked what I had been doing. I told him that I just paid for my trip to do the ride. When he gave me a huh look, I explained that I was a computer consultant and that I was fixing a problem a hotel guest was having getting an internet connection. Since I received the call away from my home base, the pleasure trip just became a business trip. He said that was the craziest thing he'd ever seen and heard of on a bike ride. I said that I just love my job. 24/7, 365 days a week. Sarcasm. I told him to have a good one and pedaled into the tunnel for the rest of the ride. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Mark Cultist. It says, accountant here, this would fail an audit. You're getting away with it due to the luck of the draw. But the fact is, the trip was not an ordinary and necessary expense in regard to your business, so the whole trip cannot be a business write-off. Unless you mean that what you billed the client paid for the trip, in which case, keep on keeping on. I just don't want the masses to believe something that isn't true. OP responded to this one and said, I billed enough that it covered the trip. As most of you know, I am a major advocate for not working past your scheduled hours unless you are getting fairly compensated for it. In this case, OP was able to bill them enough to cover their whole trip while only being mildly inconvenienced in having to talk a bit while they were still on their bike ride. It's like things didn't even really change for them, they just had to talk but could keep on doing what they were doing. I need a job like that, where I get paid as much as OP did just to talk. Wait a second. This story comes to us from Itsy Butterknife. My laptop keeps deleting stuff. A few weeks ago, client contacted our ICT services complaining that her laptop was deleting stuff, emails and files. I checked if the mouse was working properly, which it was. So I had no clue what was happening. but I suspected something was going wrong between the keyboard and the chair. Just to give some ease of mind, I updated the BIOS and said that this would likely solve the issue. After it was done, she came back within 10 minutes and said, "I plugged my laptop into the second screen and it started deleting stuff again." Okay, something wrong with her docking station, I guess? So I walk over to her desk and check. I came in, looked at her desk, and basically immediately saw something that could cause the problem. A mouse and a keyboard were connected to the docking station, which she didn't want to use. Therefore, what she decided to do is shove them out of the way, where she moved the keyboard so much that the cable had enough tension to press down one specific key, the delete button. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called BobD1964. It says, "I've been giving out lots of ID10T awards lately, much for the same reason. People are just too lazy and have no idea what they are doing, but love to blame the technology." OP responded to this one and said, "She started to say, maybe I need a new laptop because this one is not working." Maybe I'm just a relic from the old days when computers were just starting to become mainstream, but I remember when you hit the delete key to get rid of something, it used to always ask you if you were sure. But apparently these days, we don't need that confirmation anymore, and just hitting the delete key means that all of your crap disappears. In this story, it didn't seem like this was the brightest user though, so I would chalk this one up to a picnic error. Problem in chair, not in computer. This story comes to us from Electric Medicine. Wi-Fi equals the internet. I'm sure you have all experienced this one before. The CEO and I have a very good personal standing and help each other out every once in a while. Around 15 minutes to the end of my shift, my work phone rings. It's the CEO. "Hey, can I bother you for a minute? It's something about my home network if you're okay with that." "Sure thing, what's up?" "So my home network is down and the router has its info LED lit up red. I googled and it says that I can log into my router and it would tell me the error, but I don't know how to access the router. Can you help?" "Sure. So open up your laptop and connect to your Wi-Fi, then open a browser and go to 192.168.1.1. "Well, I can't do that. I can't connect to the Wi-Fi." Have you tried rebooting the router? Like unplugging it, waiting 5 minutes, and plugging it back in? "Yeah, I did that, but it's not working." "Well, okay. Do you see your Wi-Fi network at all? Does it say anything if you try to connect to it?" "Yeah, it just says no internet." "Okay, so just open up Chrome and go to 192.168.1.1. "But how would I do that if I don't have Wi-Fi? The internet is not working." "Oh, I see. Well, you can be connected to the Wi-Fi without having internet access. You can still access local resources then. And since your router is local to you, that will work." "I'm very sorry, man, but I don't quite catch it." "Alright, so imagine you have your car, but the gas tank is empty, okay?" "Yeah." You can still sit in it, turn on the radio and listen to the music, and turn the lights on, but you can't turn the engine on and drive it, yeah?" "Yeah, that's correct." Car equals Wi-Fi, gas tank equals internet connection, driving somewhere equals access to the internet. It did end up being an ISP issue as I suspected, but I was glad that I could help. What have you used to explain things like that to your users? One user down below called Coolman2 said, "I usually say something along the lines of, the router has its own website inside the box, and it usually works." Another commenter called Amit Soul Eater said, "My go-to is, you can put a letter onto a colleague's table without a post stamp or the mailman. As soon as you want to get out of the house or office, you need your mailman or internet connection." I love it when people use clever, simplified terms to explain something that is overly complicated. I once saw online when somebody was commenting about how their car took so long to charge once it got over 80%. And it was explained to them like this: if you take your car to a parking lot and the parking lot is empty, then you can find a spot right away. But as that parking lot fills up and there's not as many spots for you to park in, then you have to drive around and find another one, and that takes a little bit longer. When that parking lot is almost full, it takes you even longer to find your spot. That same concept applies to charging basically anything, because all of that energy can find a spot very quickly right away, but once it starts to fill up, it takes longer for it to find a spot to park itself. Now I know that's not completely related to the story we just read, but it is absolutely one of my favorite layman explanations. If you enjoy daily Reddit stories, I encourage you to follow and add us to your favorites on whichever podcasting platform you enjoy the most. And if you're watching and listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really helps us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.